Hello and welcome back. I'm that Jack girl, and this is day 9 of our summer savings finance journal, week 2. So, just to kind of recap just a little bit, last week we kind of talked about identifying our money goals and values, creating a financial board or a calendar, finding an accountability partner. That's important in your debt repayment, your finance journey, your savings journey, someone that will help keep you accountable. We talked about prioritizing our debt repayment and our savings plan, be it just a regular savings account or an emergency fund. We talked about that. We talked about this plan being a smart plan. And if you need more information on the smart plan, look back at day 4, and that'll give you a lot of information on creating a smart plan so that the plan that you're creating to save money, to pay off debts, it's not overbearing, it's not burdensome, right? We want to make sure that it doesn't overwhelm you and that you're able to kind of keep this going, that you have the motivation to kind of keep this plan going. And again, this plan here that we're creating is for 30 days, okay? This is day 9. We also talked about how long will it take. But before we figure out how long it's going to take, we have to figure out if your goal is, to pay off debts, how many debts do you have? What is the dollar amount of those debts? Have we ignored some of the collection calls and letters that we've been receiving? So we got to open those up and then try to sit down and create a plan that will give us the answer as to how long all of this will take. Of course, creating the emergency fund, opening and keeping multiple accounts, keeping your checking separate than your savings, and the reasons why. We also talked about the insurance companies and, trying to figure out how much you're paying in insurance. We want to make sure that you're revisiting your insurance policies at least on an annual basis so that we can make sure that you're paying the best price possible and that best price possible is also the lowest cost for you in your financial journey. At the beginning of week 2, we talked about unplugging our appliances. How much more money are we paying by keeping those smaller appliances plugged in when we're not using them? We gave the example of like laptops. If you're not using your laptop, let's just say you don't use that laptop often, but you feel like you need to keep it plugged in to keep it charged. Maybe contact your electricity company so that they can help guide you on how much more you're paying by keeping something as simple as your laptop or your computer plugged in at all times. Now, on day 9, we're going to talk about free. Everybody can afford free, right? We're going to talk about free concerts. We're going to talk about doing things that are free with your family so that you're not paying a lot of money for like entry fees into parks and things like that. For instance, your library, your local library. Check in with your local library. They may have, activities for the kids throughout the summer where you can come and you can listen to someone read your kid a story, for free. We can talk about going to museums. There may be special discounts on especially those days where it's like really hot or humid outside. There may be a museum that you can visit and you may be able to get a free admission because it's so hot outside and they want to bring you in on the inside where it's cooler and where the air conditioning is. That's killing two birds with one stone. One, you're participating in something that's free. And then two, secondly, you're learning more about your history. I would just suggest maybe pay closer attention to like your local newspapers, maybe not national newspapers and things of that nature, but your local newspapers, oftentimes they will advertise, and sometimes your news outlets as well, free things that are happening in your area. Some place that you don't have to drive far to, you're not using that much gas, or if you have an electric vehicle, you're not using a charge in order to get there. But there may be many, many options that you can entertain yourself, maybe entertain a loved one, a date that you're going on, kids or other family members, and all for free. Now, we've talked about savings a lot, right? But we haven't talked about automating your savings. You can check with your employer, right? We've already talked about setting up multiple accounts, savings accounts. You could have just one savings account simply for the goal of savings. You could have the other savings account as an emergency fund. You can also have a savings type account for putting aside monies that you intend to use to pay off larger debts or to apply an additional payment to a debt that you've identified as something that you want to pay off. But we haven't talked about automating those payments. We've talked about even putting that savings account out of sight, out of mind. Maybe opening it at another bank, so that it isn't so easily accessible and you can't get to it at the drop of a dime, in case there's something that you want versus something that you need. So with automating your savings account, check with your employer. See if with your direct deposit, if you can direct deposit a small amount of money to that separate account, right? It could be as little as $5 or whatever fits the needs of your budget. If you automate that savings, again, it's an idea of out of sight, out of mind. You don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, today is payday. I have bill number 1, bill number 2, bill number 3 to pay. And you're juggling between, do I transfer money to this savings account this week or do I wait until next week? But then you remember you had that same conversation with yourself last time you got paid and you ended up not transferring those monies to that savings account. So consider automating it through your employer. Another thing that you can do, most banks, they have it set up so that you can do an automatic transfer from that checking to that savings, or from checking to checking, savings to savings, however you want to do it. You can set up an automatic payment, again, on your paydays. Don't do it a day before, don't do it a day after, do it on your paydays. You can set it up so that money is automatically transferred from that checking account, for instance, with your direct deposit, over to that savings account. And again, in most instances, it can be as little as $5. If you just think about it, that $5 can add up. It can add up really quickly. And before you know it, at the end of the year, you have so much more money than you thought that you would have. So again, try automating your savings plan so that you don't have to burden yourself with transferring those funds, on your payday, at the first of the month, at the end of the month, whatever the case may be. And then look into some fun activities. Comment down below and let me know what you find in your area. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you watching until the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.